I would love for Chemo and Rubina to go far in this game. I've been rooting for them since day one, and I know they have the fight and drive in them to go very far. I also believe that Chelsea and Mackenzie are playing very great games. Both of them have had to be in a place of survival at one point where they really had to reevaluate and realign their statures and place in the game. And both of them have fought incredibly to, win in those AI arenas and put themselves in a social position after everything they went to continue to fortify and solidify themselves. And so I think both of them are, great players. I think both of them are playing a very strong game right now.
Welcome to the Secret Alliance podcast, where we talk about the game of Big Brother with the people who play it. I'm Jason Guy from BB3, and today we are hearing from our second member of the BB26 jury, Tkor. 23-year-old Tkor Clottey has lived in many places, from London and Chicago to Atlanta now, well, before moving into the Big Brother 26 house. Tkor is a crochet business owner who wanted to bring her creativity and flair to the show. She's opening up about her BB26 challenges, but there's more for us to explore with Tkor. We submit questions for these evicted house guests to the Big Brother PR team. They send us the pool of video responses that we share right here. We don't interview these house guests directly since they're sequestered as part of the BB26 jury. Now to Tkor's exit interview, and this is the first question. Let's start with the brutal reality of Jankie's World. Tkor, what was the worst part of living there for a week?
Hey, so what was the worst part of living in Jankie World for a week? Oh, okay. There were a lot of different elements. Imagine living outside without notice. You got 2 minutes to grab everything you need, and you're living outside in it's blistering hot during the day, but it's cold as heck at night. You're eating nothing but pizza and ice cream for 7 days straight. It's a game still, and so people are having conversations, in front of you, but there's no room for you to kind of hide and have your own conversations. And for me, my closest allies were on the block, and then I was on the block. And so, it was definitely a brutal situation. There was not much to do. At most, people took naps. And when we wanted a nap, Jankie wanted to wake us up with a song and dance. And if you didn't sing a dance, you couldn't play in the next HOH. And so, I could go on, but I'll leave it there for now.
And just a quick comment on all of this. I can't imagine what that outdoor life had to be like for Tkor and all these other house guests. It's tough even thinking about Leah being HOH and what that means for just the way the game played out. I think fans were concerned that this was going to derail some of what was happening, but we saw it was a big and dramatic week, and Leah seemingly made a big move to break up that alliance of three with Rubina, Chemo, and Tkor as she sent Tkor out of the house. As we know, spoiler, a lot is happening that could change the game for Leah. Is it because of living outside, because of the whole twist there? Probably not. I think Mackenzie's hearing a lot from Chelsea, and as Chelsea is playing the game, doing a very good job of making sure players hear things. Now, the concern for Chelsea is that Mackenzie goes, is she saying too much? Is she working me too hard? And then Mackenzie flips on Chelsea. But a lot still left to play out before Thursday night's eviction. All right, next question for Tkor. You always seemed calm and collected on screen. Was that always the case, Tkor?
So, was I calm, cool, and collected during this show? The answer is most definitely no. Every single day I was an anxious mess, even on eviction days, even if I wasn't on the block, even if one of my allies weren't on the block, I was still very anxious about how that vote would go, what would happen during the next HOH, what would happen during the next vetoes, looking ahead, but also needing to plan, for the current present. In my life, I'm definitely an overthinker. And so I appreciate that I came off calm, cool, and collected, but my mind and my heart were racing constantly during this game.
There's something to be said for keeping your composure under pressure. And we saw Tkor do a good job of that in the BB26 house. I think one of the things that's tough for people who've never played the game of Big Brother to understand is sort of the reality that's in the house and the perception of reality. And that is very different. People perceive things to be real based on the information they have. And as viewers, we're watching so much. We get the feeds, we get the shows, we see all the diary rooms. In there, the information is very limited. They see no diary rooms. They have no outside interaction. And it's what they personally were involved in as far as conversations go, or the things that are being fed. And sometimes that is not accurate information, as we know as fans. And so I think that's the tricky part about this, that we see these house guests saying is, I really didn't know what was going on. Or they, in the case of Tucker, I felt like he really had a good understanding of what was going on in the house. His game was very chaotic, so I didn't understand that he knew that maybe as I was watching it. But talking to him, if you didn't watch that interview, go back. It's pretty remarkable. All right, next to Tkor, let's talk about the jury. What are you looking forward to discussing most with those other jury members?
What am I looking forward to the most discussing with the other jury members? Honestly, I'm really excited to hear about everybody's perspective and perceptions on this game. There were a lot of things going on that I didn't necessarily know that was happening. And I think that people are perceiving people's games in very different ways. And so it'll be really interesting to be able to hear their perspectives as well as share mine.
Let's talk strategies. And Tkor, what strategies do you think contributed most to keeping you off the block for 2 months?
Wow. Okay. What strategies do I think contributed to me staying off the block for 2 months in this game? I would say that one, in the beginning, coming off as non-threatening, someone who, wasn't necessarily going to win a lot of comps, but also someone who could be an additive and be of value to people's games. I think that socially, all I did was be myself. I am someone who is reserved, that continues to open up over time. And I do think, the element of the different kind of attitude and personality I brought into the house could have been seen as helpful for sure. Ultimately, my strategy in this game was just to protect the people that I wanted to protect most in this game. For a lot of the time, those people were Chemo, Rubina, and Chelsea. And so, with that kind of full set in mind, that's kind of how I went forward with my game.
For me, looking at Tkor's game, she was very non-threatening. And I think that approach is why she stayed off the block for so long. But I think that's why once she was on the block, people went, you know what, we've got to get rid of Tkor or she's going to win this whole game. And she really was in a great position to do that. Although her resume may have lacked in a few areas where some other people won more competitions, she had that title that she had never been on the block in the BB26 house, obviously, until her eviction week. And spoiler, the same thing goes for another player in that house now seeing the block. And we'll maybe get to some of that here a little later. Next question here for Tkor. Is there anything this week you feel you could have done to stay in the BB26 house?
Is there anything this week that I think I could have done to stay in this game? Yeah, for sure. I could have won the veto. Had I won the veto, I could have also used it to get one of my other allies on the block. And then I could have used my skills of persuasion to try to get the votes to keep the other person safe. So definitely, if there is one thing I could redo, is winning that veto.
We know it as fans, as former players, the veto is so important. And Tkor knows that really more than anybody right now, how powerful it is and how that is the one thing that could save you. This season was unique in the AI arena. It was something early on in the game that meant even if you make it on the block to eviction night, there is still a path to save yourself. And I think that is some part of the game that is very dynamic that maybe the producers see and go, we need to introduce this every season. And maybe it's not always available, but it's something that players compete for, sort of how the veto went that Leah won, not the Golden Power veto, but the other one in the Jankie World week. The Jankie veto involved a competition, and then you got a veto. I think I would like to see something like that, where a player has a chance to earn something that still then would put them in the position. So it's like, if you win this and then you win something else, you have this opportunity. I think that there's some merit in that, where you can somehow save yourself if you are able to win a competition or a series of those. I don't know. It's just a thought that, as we've seen it play out this season, I really liked that players had a chance after that veto ceremony to still be able to save themselves in some way come Thursday night, eviction night in the BB26 house. So just a thought from this former player. Next question for Tkor. Who would you like to see follow you into the jury house?
Who would I like to see follow me into the jury house? You know, again, I love everyone. I'm rooting for everyone, regardless of who makes it to the end, actually. However, you know, I can't say that I wouldn't like a bit of revenge. And I would love to see the person who put me on the block follow me into the jury house.
Well, Tkor, you may be seeing that revenge as it plays out, because spoiler here, it really does look like the HOH from your week, Leah, who is now, after the Golden Power veto was used, on the block. And the way the week has played out has been pretty incredible here. We saw the initial two nominees. Mackenzie won HOH, and we saw the two initial nominees there, Chemo and Angela, where it was, I'm going to break up some groups here, the dynamic of Chemo, I'm going to break up the dynamic of Angela and Leah. And then, because of what Chelsea has been talking to Mackenzie about over the last few days, and the feeds have been very fascinating to watch Chelsea work, Mackenzie decided, after winning the power veto, to pull down Chemo. Now, saving him, Angela's still on the block, and the replacement nom is Leah. And it really does look like, right now, the sentiment is to get Leah out. That seems to be the house consensus. But as we know, a lot can change before we get to that eviction on Thursday night. And we shall see. A whole lot can happen. So just wait for it. Okay. Now to a question from us here at the Secret Alliance podcast. As the head of household who nominated Tkor when he was evicted, how do you think his departure reshaped dynamics in the house and your game? If you could go back, would you change that decision or another in any way?
So, as head of household, when I nominated Tkor, do I think that him leaving the house changed the dynamics of the game and the energy of the game? And is there anything that I would have done differently in that scenario? I would for sure say that Tkor getting evicted from the house did change the dynamics in the game greatly. I think that if there was anything that I would have done differently in terms of my nominations that week, you know, I don't necessarily regret, you know, the people that I put up. It was very much an interest for me to get a competitor out, as I am not a physical player. And so while I did not want that to be Tkor, because he was the pawn I wanted to win the veto and or win in the AI arena to eventually get a competitor out. And so it wasn't the result that I wanted, it wasn't the result I envisioned, but I don't regret my decisions in the moment, because had I made any other decisions, that could have led to me being put on the block sooner, and me getting evicted sooner. So ultimately, I was able to give myself a couple extra weeks in the house.
Former players do a lot of guessing about what they did and the what if. I appreciate Tkor saying this was the right move for her game in that moment. And this is the way it played out. She does feel like, and I think that was an interesting part of the interview, that gave her safety for so many additional weeks, and may have even been part of why she stayed off the block for so long. But, you know, hard to say, but it's certainly something, as we saw Tkor walk out of the house, that shifted the dynamics of the Big Brother 26 house. All right, on to the next question here, and another one from the Secret Alliance podcast. Please let us in on who you believe is playing the strongest game right now, Tkor, and why. And which player or players do you see going far in the game?
Who do I believe is playing one of the strongest games in the house thus far, and who do I envision going far in this game? So obviously, I would love for Chemo and Rubina to go far in this game. I've been rooting for them since day one, and I know they have the fight and drive in them to go very far. I also believe that Chelsea and Mackenzie are playing very great games. Both of them have had to be in a place of survival at one point where they really had to reevaluate and realign their statures in place in the game. And both of them have fought incredibly to, win in those AI arenas and put themselves in a social position after everything they went to continue to fortify and solidify themselves. And so I think both of them are, great players. I think both of them are playing a very strong game right now.
No surprise, she has lots of love for Chemo and Rubina. I think that it's going to be interesting when she sees what played out this week. But again, Chemo was almost going to get evicted, and then things changed. And because of someone else she mentioned there, Chelsea, and she calls Chelsea someone she was looking out for and an ally. So I do think if Chelsea sits in a final two chair with someone like MJ, so Mackenzie's there, I think that Chelsea would get Tkor's vote. And so I think that is very good end game we're seeing from Chelsea based on this exit interview from Tkor. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. I think that she also recognizes that Mackenzie is playing a very strong game in the Big Brother house. And that's proof. Again, the spoiler, she's HOH and she won a veto this week and basically controlled everything. I do wonder what it means for her next week, though. That's just me watching BB26 here, wondering what this, as having power now for Mackenzie, means next week in the Big Brother house. Do house guests who in turn get the power target her and go after her? Or has she made enough strategic alliances? But the numbers are so small. It would be hard not to see Mackenzie on the block at some point next week, but she will, if she has a chance to play the veto, have to save herself that way. Just my take on it. Now to those goodbye messages that your fellow house guests recorded for you. If you could say anything to one of them, who would it be and what would you say?
So seeing the goodbye messages on the recording and, what would my response be? If I could talk to any one of them, I definitely would, want to talk to Chelsea and, tell her I'm very grateful for her friendship and her candor and, advocating for me during the week that I was on the block. I see her going very far in this game. And I know that she's a big fan of this game, has been for 10 years. And so, would just want to give her some solace and continue to reify the gratitude I have for her in the ways we were able to play the game together.
Interesting. Chelsea, right? Chelsea is very good at managing jury relations. These are people she helped move out of the house and into the jury house. And these players will still likely give Chelsea their vote in the end. They will vote for Chelsea to win if she's in one of those final two chairs. That is really impressive jury management. Chelsea this week has been, in my mind, very masterful with talking to Mackenzie and convincing Mackenzie to do what she did this week to ultimately get Leah on the block. And Chelsea's goal is to see Leah walk out of the Big Brother house this week. Now, I do, and I mentioned it a little earlier, worry for Chelsea that she's playing a little hard right now, and I don't know how Mackenzie may react to that if she starts getting some other information from, say, Leah. And I think Leah's trying to bring some of that information in right now, or from some of the other players in the house that Mackenzie listens to and respects. But right now, I think her top connection there, yes, there's Cam on the side, but I think it's really Mackenzie, Chelsea. This is a strong duo, and I think Mackenzie is all in on Chelsea right now. That can always change, as we know, in the BB house. Okay, Final question here. Do you feel that some of the people who voted you out should have kept you because you would have benefited their game? Who and why?
Do I think that some of the people who voted me out should have voted to keep me because I would have benefited their game? For sure, I think that some people should have voted to keep me. I know that for Cam, I do think that I would have benefited his game better because I don't think that too many people prioritize him in the game. And there have been multiple talks of him, kind of being the person that people would put on the block. I also think that I would have, greatly benefited Chemo's game as well as, I think together we are strong strategists. We know how to kind of work together and come to solutions to get us further in the game. And we've made some big moves together. I know that it was possible to make some more big moves moving forward. And I don't think that Mackenzie would have voted to keep me over Rubina, but Mackenzie was someone that even though her chances of winning are incredibly high, she was someone that I genuinely wasn't interested in targeting anymore because I was coming from the point of view that if I didn't win, who would I want to see win at the end? And at the end of the day, I want to see someone at the end who, has played a good game, has fought to survive, who wants to be it, who's earned it. And so that's kind of my perspective on that.
It came as no surprise to me, probably not to you, that she said Chemo and Rubina would have benefited by having her in the house. Sure, those are great numbers. You have 3 with numbers in the house dwindling down. They really could have, if they had power, sort of run the game. Even without power, you have the numbers with voting as long as 2 members aren't on the block. But it just didn't work out that way because the target for Leah was to get rid of somebody from that group, and she made sure that the nominations were the way they were. So 2 members of that group of 3 ended up on the block. Come eviction night, 1 had to go. And unfortunately, Tkor was the one that walked out of the house. But she was great fun to watch. She brought crocheting back. Right? Did you know a crocheting business was a thing in 2024?
Hope you had a laugh, and we appreciate you checking out the Secret Alliance podcast. Make sure you tell someone who loves Big Brother all about us. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, watch some more from BB26 and other previous seasons, and leave us your comments. Thanks.
Oh, and if I had to make a prediction right now, I think the next member of the jury will be Leah.